Support for Up First Winter Games comes from NPR sponsor Allianz Travel Insurance. Get ready to give ordinary the cold shoulder with protection for adventures that give you the best kind of chills. Learn more at allianztravelinsurance.com.
There are 16 different sports at these Olympics, lots of variations on the theme of skating, skiing, and snowboarding, but there's no dog sledding or horses. However, there used to be. Rachel Treisman is here to talk about Olympic events from days gone by. So, Rachel, let's start with something, and I'm going to need your help on pronouncing this. I'll give it a try first. Skijoring, what's the closest pronunciation? Am I even anywhere in the ballpark?
I'll be honest, I only just learned about this word and this entire sport, so I'm not totally sure, but the internet says skijoring.
Skijoring, okay.
I heard the person I talked to about it said skijoring, but I'm not sure that he was an expert either in the sport itself, so let's say skijoring/skijoring.
All right, maybe that's why it's not an Olympic sport anymore. No one knew how to pronounce it or settle on a pronunciation, but tell us what it is.
Sure. So I've heard it described as a combination of ski racing, rodeo. Picture this. A skier is holding on to the reins. The reins are attached to either a horse, a pony, or dogs, and they're gliding across a frozen lake. This made its debut, first and only appearance, in the 1928 Olympics. It was across a frozen lake and horses were involved. It did not stick around in the Olympics, obviously, but in my research I found that it's kind of having a resurgence in western parts of the U.S., so like Utah, Wyoming, Colorado. So anyone there, if you're hearing this, please correct my pronunciation and tell me more about it.
All right, now what about dog sledding? I mean, you would think that would have been a part of the Olympics at some point.
Another great sport involving dogs that we don't have in the Olympics anymore, that appeared in Lake Placid in 1932, kind of a nod to the sport's North American roots. There were about a dozen U.S. and Canadian mushers racing across 25 heats spread over 2 days. And a report I found from the Times said that crowds gathered to watch them cross the finish line. And when they did, some of the dogs were so tired that they were riding on the sleds instead of pulling them.
Wow.
Maybe a reason it didn't come back.
Well, I hope the dogs at least got the medal, not the person that they're pulling. I mean, it would only be fair, right?
Well, I talked to Olympic historian Bill Mallon about this. I ran into him at the media center the other day, and he actually has a passion for this very question. He's trying to dig up all the names of the dogs that participated. He called it his white whale as a historian. So he said he's found about 10 names of the dogs that participated out of probably, he thinks, close to 90. But I should say, if you are bummed that you don't get to see dog sledding in the Olympics, just remember there are a lot of long distance endurance competitions in the sport today. A bunch of them are in North America. Think about the Iditarod, the Yukon Quest. So it's not totally a thing of the past.
All right, Rachel, so there's a sport called Bandy, which I understand is in the hockey family. Tell us about Bandy.
Yeah, I saw it compared to, let me make sure that I get this right, field hockey on skates with very ancient roots. Apparently, an Egyptian cave painting depicted some version of it like 4,000 years ago, but the sport that we're really talking about, the Olympic version, I think originated closer to the 1800s out of England, and it was really popular in Europe. It made its Olympic appearance in 1952 in Norway, I believe. That was it. The sport is still around today, but it looks like it didn't really take off in the U.S. But, you know, Russia, Scandinavian countries, they have all been playing it, and it's pretty popular there, I hear.
So Bandy, not so dandy in the U.S.
I mean, I think we have a lot of hockey to pay attention to, at least right now.
That's right. Okay,
no
fine.
offense to Bandy.
No offense at all. All right, what about ski ballet? Because that sounds beautiful.
Ski ballet, also known as acro ski, which I also really like the sound of. I think what's funny about this one is the name really does describe what it is. But let me take you through it. It's kind of like figure skating in that it's scored by judges, it was set to music, and of course, like the costumes and the moves are everything. Lots of flips, lots of choreography. This sport was sort of in the family of freestyle skiing, which I learned came out of the counterculture movement of the 60s and 70s. It popped up at the Olympics in the late 80s and early 90s, so it had 2 Olympic turns, but then it kind of fizzled out, not just from the Olympics, but from international competition and from sporting in general. The nice thing there is, of course, there's tons of freestyle skiing still in the Olympics today, but I would love to see acro ski/ski ballet with my own eyes.
Now, Rachel, a lot of the sports we talked about just didn't last very long at the Olympics. What are some of the reasons for that?
a lot of these sports were never supposed to stick around. They were technically considered demonstration sports, so they weren't being officially added to the Olympic program forever. They were being sort of tacked on alongside the games in any given year as a way to promote the sport or, pay tribute to the host country. Think again about sled dogs in Lake Placid. But a lot of them popped up once, maybe twice, and then, weren't officially submitted for inclusion. That involves a formalized process through the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, to add and drop sports. But a lot of these demonstration sports we see after World War II. I talked to, again, historian Bill Mallon. He said the practice started with the very first Olympic Games in the very first Winter Olympics in 1924. They've been going on for much longer than that, but they really became the norm after World War II, and they kind of happened every Olympics after that until 1992. That was the last year that we had demonstration sports. It was also the last year that we had a Winter and a Summer Games in the same year.
All right, that's NPR's Rachel Treisman. Rachel, thanks.
Thanks.